Hello and welcome to another Whiteboard Training Friday. I'm Isaiah Henkel with Cheeky Scientist, and today I'm talking to you about how to speak up during a business meeting. Okay, meetings in industry to advance, right? To be able to speak up, ask your boss questions, managers, middle managers, colleagues, etc. It's a little bit different than what you're likely used to in academia, for example, in a lab meeting or a journal club, or even when you're TAing. Okay, we tend to be a little bit more passive. There's a lot more silence. We tend to agree at certain times that are unusual to agree in industry, and we tend to disagree in unusual ways and at unusual times that you would do in industry. So if you're a PhD, you definitely want to listen to this because we're going to go through the 6 keys to speaking up in a business meeting. And this is stuff that'll help you even if you haven't transitioned into industry yet, because it'll help you on your phone screen. It'll help you on a panel interview or any interview during a site visit. So what is number 1? Read or make an agenda. Now, if you're like me, every time we went to a lab meeting, in my lab when I was in academia, a journal club, there was no real agenda. It was just kind of a discussion, a very academic kind of collaborative discussion where people would talk and we would ponder stuff, and there was no kind of list of items to execute, no action items. This goes against everything that people are trained on at the highest level in business. Okay, you want to have an agenda, you want to have milestones. I don't want to get into a theoretical argument here, but what I will ask you is, how does it make you feel if you're in academia if you have no milestones? I'm guessing a lot of you as PhDs, you don't have very clear goals on what you need to achieve to advance to the next level in your academic career. That's probably why you're interested in industry now. You don't know what you have to do to actually become a professor. You don't know what you have to do to actually advance in your postdoc or to advance to even getting your PhD in the first place. This is why agenda items tied to milestones, tied to company goals, tied to your departmental goals, your individual goals are crucial to know in industry. And it's why every meeting in industry should have an agenda. The first thing you need to do is read that agenda before you actually show up to the meeting. If there is no agenda, you can put points on the board for yourself right away by creating an agenda in advance or asking for one in advance before the meeting even starts. Then you can use that agenda to craft your first question. Have at least one question ready to go that you can ask right away at the meeting. That's crucial. That's number 2. Prepare an opener. You want to be involved in the discussion. Contrary to what you might think, you don't want to show up to the meeting, agree to everything your boss says, agree to what everybody else says, and then leave. That's a waste of time. Okay? You want to think very hard about what is the most important thing to discuss, the most important question to ask, the most important thing to get clarity on related to that agenda, related to your career goals, and try to align that with the company's goals, the department's goals, etc. Okay, so prepare one question in advance, prepare that opener. And number 3, speak first. Ask that question early. We've talked about a site visit presentation and how to prepare for a site visit presentation, how to give a presentation to perfection on a site visit. If you haven't seen those videos, you can look at the videos on our Facebook page at facebook.com/mycheekyscientist, or you can go to phdsgethired.com, put in your name and email, and get our downloads and our ebooks on presenting for a site visit. But in short, you want to start talking with people right away. The worst thing you can do is sit in a meeting, and a lot of us have experienced this in academic seminars, where we sit in the back, we have a good question, but we wait and we wait and we stall and we wait, and then there's like this weird pressure to ask the question, and we finally talk ourselves into not asking it. Same thing happens in a meeting. You haven't talked. It's weird now if you do talk. You don't want to talk at all, but you think you should talk. Don't let that happen to yourself. Just speak right away. So going back to the site visit example, one of the best ways to present is while the audience is filing in, even if it's just 5 people, talk to them as they take their seats. Okay, you can do the same thing in the meeting. Talk to people before the meeting starts, and then ask a question early on, right when the meeting starts. Okay, it'll lower that activation energy of asking questions later. So speak first. Also, interrupt with questions. Interrupting is not a bad thing in a meeting. You don't just sit there like it's a didactic presentation and let somebody talk the entire time. Interject, ask questions. The person who's usually the least agreeable, not just to be a jerk, but isn't just agreeing blindly with the boss, and who speaks up the most, okay, has intelligent things to say, of course, too, is the person who's going to advance in their career. There's a lot of studies that show this. Again, The disagreeable person, done in the right way, is usually the person to advance quickest in industry, right? In business. So think about that. A great way to interrupt without coming across as too aggressive, because you want to be assertive but not aggressive, a great way to interrupt is instead of just saying, well, I think this, ask a question, right? This is kind of like the Socratic method. Say, well, do you really think that's going to be the best way to move forward? Or is this going to help us move closer to our company goals? Or does this fit in our culture? Ask these kind of questions, okay? Interrupt with questions, not with your opinions. Number 4, repeat statements. Okay, so a great way to communicate in general is if somebody gets done talking, say, so what you're saying is XYZ, where XYZ is just repeating what they just ended talking about. What you're seeing is XYZ, but have you considered this? Okay, so what you said is you think that we should go into these markets, but your concerns are that the market's not ready for us, or we're not ready, or we don't have the resources. What if we did this? Okay, it makes it a lot easier to enter a conversation if you're just repeating what somebody else says. It merges what they said with your upcoming question or with your upcoming comments. Number 5, take opposing views. Again, you need to learn to be a little bit disruptive. By definition, being assertive means you're going to disrupt things a little bit. Not so much where you're being aggressive and you're taking things over and nobody else gets to talk, but you need to be assertive. You need to be okay with disrupting. You need to be okay with taking an opposing view. Okay, it doesn't mean you play devil's advocate all the time. You got to be able to do both. You got to be able to say, I really like that idea because of X, Y, Z, right? Have we also considered this? And you need to be able to say, I understand what you're saying and why you think that might work, but it may not work because of this. Okay, so always be thinking, what if I went along with this? What if I said the exact opposite? When should I bring up which? Number 6, prioritize work over feelings. That's right. Most of us as PhDs, believe it or not, we're a little bit sensitive. We don't want to offend people, especially if we're a PhD who spent our entire life in academia. We go into a business meeting, we think all these other people are high-level business professionals. We start feeling what we normally refer to as imposters, right? We start getting a dose of imposter syndrome. And we don't want to speak up because we're like, well, I'm just a lifetime academic. These people have been in business. I have nothing to offer. Also, I don't want to interject to make people angry at me or make people look down at me or make people, I don't want to look stupid to these people. I don't want to make them look stupid. Whatever the reasoning is, stop obsessing over their feelings or your feelings. Doesn't mean, again, you be a jerk, but focus on the work, okay? It's not personal, it's business, right? Focus on the strategy that they're suggesting. Poke holes in the strategy, not in the person. One of the biggest problems PhDs have a problem with in academia is that they stop being critical of just the data and they start being critical of themselves or of other people. Don't do this. Focus on the work. Be critical of the work, the strategy, not the person. Don't obsess over feelings, obsess over the work. If you want to learn more about how to speak up in a meeting, how to be assertive in general, how to get hired into industry in the first place, go to phdsgethired.com, enter your name and email address. We'll send you all of our downloads, our ebooks, and our inserts about getting hired into industry, and we'll let you know when the Cheeky Scientist Association opens up again for new members. As always, remember your value as a PhD and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.